The future is in the house. I am honored today to have the great Daniel Alvarez from El Extrabase. The reason I call him the future, and I say the future is now, is because a little inside joke. Danny and I go way back. I'm the kind of the moved out media type. Danny is the young new face of sports journalism and more. And so I call him the future, and I am honored to have Daniel Alvarez with us. And this is going to be a general conversation as we kind of expand the ManOn2nd brand. The YouTube channel is going to be, going more and more with podcasting, interviews, obviously with the highlights as well. But Danny and I, we go back to, I was kind of my last few years covering the Marlins when Danny came aboard. He was born in Venezuela. El Extrabase is a Spanish language site, but Danny does amazing work. And before we get really rolling, let's everyone please, very important, the house, taking care of business here. Please like and subscribe to the channel, and like and subscribe to Danny Alvarez's channel as well. Danny, welcome, my friend.
Thank you, Joe. Always an honor to be here, following your lead as always since that first day in 2017. Yesterday I posted something on my Instagram page saying, "Oh, my 8th year covering the Marlins at Lone Depot is done because they played their last home game on Sunday." And I realized that it was my 8th season. I'm like, wow! I started halfway through in 2017, and I remember when our good friend Bori introduced us on the field, and you were showing me about the MLB app, showing me about launch angle while we were watching. I think it was like JT Riddle taking BP, and that's how the journey started for me. And I never forget that conversation and how kind you were to me in those first years. And obviously, I'm very proud to be here sharing this space with you.
Yeah, tell everybody a bit about El Extrabase, and now the YouTube channel's really taken off. Since you've gone more to the podcast format to go with the video interviews of the players. And you and Danny's mother Mare, she's well respected journalist in Venezuela. They have a podcast channel. The other day they had Miguel Rojas as a guest. They had Francisco Cervelli not long ago, and many, many more. Talk about your channel, how people can find it, and how you're growing your YouTube channel as well.
Yeah, just you guys can type it as it appears here, El Extrabase, and it will appear the YouTube channel. And as you mentioned, Joe, people can see our interviews. I think they have the direct translation on YouTube, so that'll be an easy step if they don't speak Spanish. But yeah, El Extrabase, this is a project that we started in 2018 with my good friend Julio Munoz. We had a publication, a bi-weekly publication. We started, I think it was around May of that year, and that's how I was able to write about the Marlins or about baseball in South Florida or the teams that were visiting basically on a daily basis, and that's how I kind of started covering baseball on my own or with my own project. And we never thought that we were gonna make it as big as it is right now in Venezuela and Latin America. We're very proud of that. It's a grind. It's hard because it's basically 24/7 looking at news and updates and stuff that we can add, and also things that are happening not only in Major League Baseball, but baseball goes the whole year. It's not like it starts with spring training and ends with the World Series, because when it ends, we have 4 or 5 Caribbean leagues on at that time, and then the Caribbean Series, and then like 1 or 2 days after the Caribbean Series is over, we report to Jupiter for spring training. So it's a full year of coverage with different type of leagues, and that's something that we like, that we enjoy, and that's I think that being constant every day on following and giving our followers the best possible information is what has made us what we are right now.
No, and congratulations to you, your mom, and the growth and it's only going to get bigger and better. And I kind of find it interesting because my followers know all the years I spent at MLB.com in the last now I can't believe it's 4 years since I
Yeah.
took the early retirement. But I did that, and we've discussed it. I did that because I was still young enough. I was fortunate enough to be in a position through my hard work at MLB, for all those years to put myself in position to kind of explore new avenues. I'm still tinkering with how I'm moving it forward because the industry is always evolving. So
Absolutely.
this and the thing that's interesting is this ManOn2nd channel. I could be doing the Marlins, I could be doing Major League Baseball, but I find that that's an oversaturation, and this real niche with the grassroots has really resonated. It's pretty much a Broward. I'm pretty much a Broward County baseball site, but now I'm kind of rebranding as ManOn2nd Sports, incorporating the high school football season, and that's kind of
Yeah.
a reprieve from me too because it's doing something a little bit different in the baseball off season. But right now, high school baseball fall ball's there, and the weather permitting, we've had rain every day here, and there's a storm in the Gulf, and we wish everybody in potential harm's way. I hope
Yeah.
they're all safe and heed to the warnings. But if we get any rain there, we have preseason or fall scrimmages today, tomorrow, and Thursday for me, weather permitting, and I'll see some pretty good teams and pretty good players and having a lot of fun with it. But you're right. You kind of find the lane. I feel in my own small way, I'm helping provide exposure, which leads to potential scholarship and IL type of stuff for these players. And I'll hit on if the big league club gave me more reason to go. I hit on that in due
Yeah.
time. But
Yeah.
and then I'll probably incorporate a little bit more college. But this podcast angle of it adds another dimension as I'm growing it. From your perspective, Danny, and like you say in Latin America, Venezuela, are you surprised there is such an untapped market for what the content you're providing? And obviously, you're looking to capitalize on that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's in Latin America and Venezuela, we're huge baseball fans, and especially the DR, Puerto Rico, a really great area in Mexico as well, and that's where we look to go. However, there are still things that we show and that we teach every day. It seems like, because obviously it's a different culture. I would say also different technology, etc. So sometimes fans don't know or are not familiar to things that we have access to here, or are not familiarized with stats or ways to evaluate the game that we are used to have them here. So in an extra base, that's what we look for to also teach, not only give information but teach about um, new advanced stats or um, ways to evaluate players and stuff like that. So that's what makes the things interesting, because there's always that discussion between the new and the old, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not that we want to discuss and make a war out of it and be like, no, I'm on this side and I'm not willing to go backwards or something like that. It's like, no, yeah, we value what you've what you learned from all over the years, but there are things that you guys need to know now, and that's one of our focus here in Extra Base, also to teach and give our followers, as I mentioned, the best possible information, and trying to do it on an easy way, because it's not easy first to learn it, but because it's not easy to explain it either.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, you obviously have your analytics. When I break down my analytics of my site here, I'm amazed and pleasantly surprised that my analytics almost in terms of age.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm predominantly a male site, the mothers of players and such. But it's like that, whatever it is, that 10 to 15 or 10 to 20 to 20 to 30, 30 to 40, and all the way up, all of them, for me at least, have been kind of the same. It's not like
Yeah.
all the kids are finding me and the 60-year-olds aren't, or vice versa. So whatever I'm doing, you know how it is. You kind of stay with what you feel is working,
Yep.
and you kind of grow it that way. And I am encouraged that their 60-year-olds are using YouTube more regularly, as well
Yeah.
as the younger. But I also noticed that, at least from the athlete standpoint, they really are happy when I'm there. Last year during the end of the high school baseball season, one player, he hit a home run in a district game. I happened to not be at that district game because I was at another district game in another park the night before I was there. And he told me the next day he was so sad I wasn't there. And literally, as he was rounding the bases, was thinking, I hope Joe was here to get that video. So it's like, that it's valued, and if ManOn2nd can grow and I could
Yeah.
add people, it'd be, the sky's the limit on the type of content. Because, as you know, the beauty of being your own boss, Danny, is you have your vision and you can go to it, and you're not following the corporate
100%.
directives, and then this presumption of what they feel the audience wants.
Absolutely. And you obviously know what's trending and what people like, and you balance that between what you consider that you have to post or to write or to say, because not because everyone likes it, it means it's good, or that it has to be that way. But as you mentioned, I think that's the beauty of it, and I'm so fortunate, especially now, because this industry, as we know, it's very difficult, and we see some layoffs from people that we respect, that we admire, that we think, oh, they're never getting kicked out of that place or something like that, and then it happens because it is a cruel industry as well. But that's the part I enjoy the most. You try to be, not to be arrogant with that, like, oh, I'm the boss and this is what I want, this is what I like, this is what I'm gonna do. No, especially for me in El Extrabase, I have a full team of very talented people, that have tremendous baseball knowledge, or um, like my graphic designers or my editors or my producers, and I listen to them a lot. And we sit and we discuss, hey, yeah, this is what I think we should do, but I want to hear your ideas. And a lot of the things that you see in El Extrabase comes from them. And that's something that I really like, because at the same time, it's not that I see myself as a boss, but as just as another member of the team, and sometimes we just roll with it. But we don't have that pressure, or we're not handcuffed to um, one of those big corporations where we have to follow that manual and be on the same page where everyone's at. So yeah, as you mentioned, that's the beauty of it, and that's what I think, that's what I enjoy the most.
And obviously your relationships, and I know Skip Schumacher the other day, and he noted about whether this is his last year or not. Like, he's coming back.
Yeah.
um, he the way he noted, he used the word, the relationships you build, and then Skip, which I assume will be moving on to better and greener and
Yeah.
brighter
Yeah.
pastures. But he did note that, and that's kind of part of my frustration with the new age of the not like the analytical people that just don't really have a feel. And granted, it's not all about being buddy buddy and everything
Yeah.
has to be nice. It is running a business, but there's such a disconnect right now with a lot of the people that are making decisions, and just a callousness. I mean, the Marlins just laid off a ton of scouts. Many of them have been around a long time. And I'm not sure you're aware of this or what departments. They didn't even have the department head call these people. They had another fired employee call up
Yeah.
people to fire other people.
Yeah.
It's like, it's hard for me as someone, like me or not or whatever, you develop the respect, and you deserve the respect to at least get a phone call,
Absolutely.
and then so I see when Skip's talk about relationships, and Skip will miss the players. He's not going to miss much else,
100%. His
but
No,
he's going to
I
miss the
don't think.
players because because he was handed a 100-loss roster and was told make the best of it. And those guys, and you can see the hurt in their faces after every night's loss, that they're trying and they want to establish, and they don't want it. No one wants to go into Major League Baseball to be embarrassed. So
Absolutely.
it's that aspect of the relationship building. And the beauty of what I'm doing here on my channel, and I know with you, is it's all about the relationships, and you could see it in your work and the respect you get in return from them. And just kind of your thoughts on that.
That's the best thing you can have. And Skip mentioned that the relationship, those are forever, and that's what you're gonna harvest at when you're there. That's the best thing you can do, no matter what the content is, because it's always gonna be useful for whatever you need. And I think that's been the key for Extrabase's growth. The relationships that we've been developing with players, with coaches, that allow us to create good content, and that's what people like. You have no idea how proud I feel when I see comments of people saying, "Oh, I the player and this interview seems like a natural conversation between Danny and a player. It doesn't feel like an interview." And it's not that it's not a formal interview, but um, you can see the respect and how much we or how good the relationship is with the players. And that's because and you've seen it and you've done it. You are there from spring training, talking to them, not trying to bother the player, but at least you show that you care about what they're doing and you respect what they're doing. And for me, that's the most important thing. As you mentioned, as you saw there in that clip with Miggy, Miggy chose to have more time, or to spend an hour plus with us in the studio that day, on a getaway day for the Dodgers, instead of having that extra hour with his family, for example. But because he respects what we're doing, and he gave us wonderful insight in that interview, talking about his season with the Dodgers, talking about Shohei, living in LA, his relationship with Mookie, and how they were able to put the ego aside when Mookie went to play shortstop and learning a new position, and having Miggy as his mentor, um, because Mookie hadn't played shortstop in I don't know how much time, and he had Miggy helping him. And Miggy said, if Mookie was able to do it without any ego, why? I mean, there's no reason for me to have any ego and go play, or tell Roberts, like, no, I'm not gonna play third, I'm not gonna play second, I'm a shortstop, and that's what I'm gonna do. No, absolutely not. So that's something that I really enjoyed, and that I really appreciate, and that's something that we've developed over the years. And that's that. If I had to to give someone um, advice, it would be that to try to develop the best relationships with players, coaches, executives, um, staff, whoever it is, writers, the ushers, the security people, whoever
Yeah.
that is, because that's just going to help you in the short and long term.
Exactly, and that was this clip I've been popping up there is Miguel Rojas, former Marlin, obviously now with the Los Angeles Dodgers, and a recent interview on El Extrabase. Hey, you like my editing skills, Danny? I don't have this
That's
highfalutin
amazing.
production team. I
I
just throw these little things up here.
that's
May not be
awesome.
the most
No,
smoothest. I'm not outsourcing.
no,
I'm doing this all
that
myself.
it's really smooth, and I like it. And that's the wonderful thing about StreamYard, is that it allows you to do that. It's not that you have to do a big post production or pre production. It's about the moment, and I really like it. Congratulations, man.
Yeah. I find, in the last year and a half, the word authenticity really has kind of come to the
Yeah,
forefront as you're seeing more media outlets, more people in our space. We always have these words in our space, and we're all trying to find our place in it. But I think the audience does resonate with stuff that really kind of connects with them. Like, I don't pretend to be, I'm an old sports writer who basically was the printed word, who can talk a lot. So
Yeah.
give me a microphone, I'll talk. And and I also don't like to be as scripted. So now I could do this. Some people like it, some won't. Some will tune in, some will tune out. But the thing about it is, I will at least be my authentic self, and just as I had a great rapport with Miguel Rojas in the years I covered him.
Yeah.
One of my favorite players, and you touched on something for all the aspiring journalists. I know the field is completely different than it was even when I retired in 2020. But I always kind of looked at, and I think I discussed it with you many years ago. Day one of spring training was like basically you're chronicling the season for
Correct.
whoever you're working for. So I always kind of looked at it. I didn't look at it, oh boy, here's day one, and we're going to be here for 7 straight months. It's going to be boring. Even if it's a bad team, you kind of would say we're here to chronicle day one, and that's when you talk about developing. And a sport like baseball, which has so much ups and downs, where you're not going to always be at your best, and you're going to see that sometimes that player who will have a terrible first spring training start may be the World Series MVP at the end of the year.
100%.
You never know. In 2003, my second year on the beat for MLB.com covering the Marlins, a 20-year-old Miguel Cabrera was in spring training, and I remember everyone talking about he was playing third, I think, at the time, and they're like, "Who is this kid?" And they're like, "He's going down to Double A, but isn't he big league ready?" No, he's not because he's 20. In this whole 9 yards. And next thing you know, he's hitting a home run in the World Series off Roger Clemens after Clemens throws at his head to try to intimidate him and brush him off the plate. And but you see that growth from day one all the way to. That's just one example of the many years I've covered sports, but that's the relationships, and that makes you the authority. As like you say, there's a lot of people in these spaces, but they're Daniola. I know you're modest, but they're not many authorities, even like down here in South Florida.
And the thing is, Joe, that you have to see it as a privilege, because it is a privilege to be that close to the game and the players. And as you mentioned, no matter if it's a good or bad team, that's a privilege. And because it is a privilege and it is something big, it is also a big responsibility as well. And this is something that people have to be aware of, and especially now in the social media era where everyone sees what you're doing, whether you
Yeah.
bad low numbers or high numbers, or you think, oh no, my audience is just about um, fans that just make fun of players and stuff like that. Believe me that everyone sees what you're doing, and you don't have to fake it. You don't have to be someone you're not, but you have to be responsible. And that's that for me, it's one of the most important things, because now you could see anyone trying to be a reporter, anyone trying to break news, and that when that happens, and you're not being serious about it, it seems like it hurts the entire media, and we lose some credibility, because someone is just like here to have fun, or just to be, oh no, yeah, but I'm starting and I'm learning. Yeah, we all start and we all learn, basically every single day, but you have to be responsible, and that'll be my my other main thing here. But yeah, and as you mentioned, I see people sometimes from day one in spring training in with that same attitude, like, oh yeah, we're gonna be here for 7 months, this is just day one, this team's not gonna be great, whatever. I think day one of spring training, it's one of the best, if not the best day in the year, because no matter what team you're covering, no matter for the players, no matter what team you're playing for, it gives you hope. And for me, it's just the start of another year to do something big, to do something great. The way I see it for us in Extrabase, and that's why I enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You enjoy the sport, and this is where, and I always had kind of these discussions with people on how to build something. Like I've made it clear to people, and all the years I was at MLB, I'm not a fan of the casual fan.
Yeah.
I don't look at it like I looked at it this way. I'm working for 18 years for MLB.com, which I did from 2002 through 2020. So it was like what 19, 18, 19 seasons, whatever it
Yeah.
was. Where it's Major League Baseball's website. We should really act highfalutin. The bar should be so much higher.
Yeah.
That's why I get mad if people would write, "Oh, great at bat." Now you say it in conversation for a guy who walked. Well, technically, it's a plate appearance. A walk isn't an at bat.
Yeah.
It's kind of the vernacular. People just say it in conversation,
Hmm.
but the printed word has to be different.
Absolutely.
Or I've seen headlines. They'll say, uh, "Quality start by this pitcher," and it'd be a 5 inning outing. I'm like, you could say whatever you want about the
Yeah.
5 innings, but you can't use quality start because the definition of a quality start
It's
there
it's
is,
completely
which is
different.
is 6 innings with a minimum of 3 or less earned runs for a quality start. So when I would see that on the website, I'd be more critical because we aren't just Joe's podcast with a guy who's in his basement who's never talked to an athlete. We're the highest bar, and so I'm like, instead of trying to reach the casual fan, because the casual fan's going to be the first fan to leave you. So I'm
Absolutely.
like, why not try to indoctrinate to make the hardcore fan, make the casual fan the hardcore fan? And that's always been my mindset. And one of the reasons I'm doing what I'm doing now is to maybe I'll fail at it, but in the ventures and the projects that I work on directly that are my voice, there are certain people, and I'm never going to say, "Oh, never listen to me," or whatever. You have to agree 100% with me or go away. But I'm not going to compromise. I'm in a position in my life where I don't have to. What I want my message to be and my direction. If you could sit around and you're a hardcore fan, it's like I tip my hat to you. Respect that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to get. That's what I'm trying to influence young athletes that want to get into this or young journalists that it's easy to sit around and do, oh, the dad in the stands holding a baby in one hand, a beer in another, catches a foul ball in his beer and doesn't, drop the baby. And that's the viral video, and that's what everyone's going for, and that's all anyone talks about in a certain game. I'm like, what are we doing? It's like,
And and
what
and
is that?
and yeah, and I think, I mean, I think you can have both. It's not that
Correct.
you can't have that viral video or a kid catching 3 foul balls in a row, because we've seen it too. I think it was with Martin Prado one time.
Yeah.
But that cannot be your headliner or your biggest story of the day. Like it just can't be. And you can give more exposure to that, rather to a player's hit or a great player, an outstanding pitching performance. That cannot be your headliner, and that's the part that it's getting dangerous now, because it seems like we pay more, like people or some people pay more attention to that, and not only people but some outlets pay more attention to that rather than what actually happened in the game, and whether there's a big story or not. And that's where it gets dangerous. I'm not saying that you can't have that. Of course you can have both, but you have to know, or give priority to the actual game itself.
Yeah, because otherwise, to me, you're not trusting your product.
100%. You're
You
you're
know?
you're de- you're depending on someone external to the game, external of the game to happen in order for you to have views and likes. And
Yeah, I
unless
mean,
and,
it's
and
just
unless and unless you are like MLB with cut 4, for example,
yeah,
or this is and don't get me wrong, but this is why I don't take it too serious, sites like Barstool, for example, because it's informal.
yeah,
And that's what you have those outlets for. But as you mentioned, and you hit it where it is. It's you don't trust your product. You don't trust how good you can write a story or do an interview or make a report or something, and it shouldn't be that way.
And you've known me well enough, and I was always like if you're whatever you're covering, I always to try to defend, baseball to football. Oh, the NFL's king or whatever, and then it's like then baseball starts acting. Oh, the NFL's king, and I'm like, numbers are numbers,
Hmm.
obviously, and the NFL has their ratings, and they also don't have a minor league system. It's called college football. They basically they have whatever it is, the 53-man roster and whatever is on their travel squad. Baseball teams have the 26-man roster, at least four minor league affiliates and complex level. It's like and then you kind of pool the 81 home games compared to 8 or 9, however the math works out for you in the NFL. And I'm like, your goal should be number one.
100%.
And even if you're co-number ones. And so I always would get mad at that because the competitor to me was, I was covering the Marlins a in terms of attendance, revenue, always a bottom five attendance, a bottom five revenue. Yet my numbers were never bottom five.
Hmm.
And I took a lot of pride in that. Now they weren't in the top 10, but when I'm pulling numbers that are a lot better than, well, that's why I retired early. And that's
Exactly.
why they,
Yeah.
and that's
Correct.
one reason why they were like mildly surprised I retired because they saw the drive and they didn't want me necessarily to leave at the time I did. But point being, and it's not just MLB, it's just kind of a societal acceptance of dumb yourself down instead of make your product that much better. Like why are you getting Miguel Rojas to open up with you? And look at it this way, because you're able to the basically the old retired reporters like myself will get the athletes to come on like and open up.
Yeah.
But if you notice, like, and obviously Jazz Chisholm had his comments he made about Miguel Rojas, but where did Jazz do that? He didn't do it to any local reporter.
No.
He went on the Ryan Clark podcast.
Yeah.
Probably a guy I never spoke to before. And obviously a former football player. And
That's one thing. And you mentioned former football player, not a
yeah,
single actual reporter,
yeah,
because they would have made the follow up questions in on that episode, for example. I would have done it.
yeah. And that's the point too. It's like a lot changed too. I don't know if you saw the Cat Williams, Shannon Sharp interview very early in January on Club Shay Shay.
No, I didn't. I've seen clips of it, but not the whole interview.
It basically changed the tenor of 2024 because he kind of exposed Hollywood and the entertainment industry
Yeah.
and the comedy and the lengths people would go to get a job. And he kind of like threw a lot of people under the bus, but he kind of called 2024 the year of truth, and it kind of permeated into a lot of other content. So we're kind of, and now the genie's out of the bottle, as they say,
Yeah.
the toothpaste out of the tube. It's like it's kind of now part of it, and to get players to open up. It still comes back to you. And why does everyone go on with Pat McAfee? Who there are days I
Yeah.
like Pat and days I don't like Pat, but that's fine. That means he's pretty good at what he does.
Absolutely.
But people are talking to him. He's getting Bill Belichick to look like a human being
Absolutely.
and open up with amazing insight.
That's what you want, but then obviously not everyone gets that from a player or from a coach, and that's when you have to look at yourself and see what you're doing wrong, because it's difficult, it's hard, but it's not impossible to have that type of insight from someone like that in any sport, and that's what and that's why I like when I see on your previous podcast guys for those former players that you covered that won a World Series here or that you covered for a long time, going up and up on your podcast, or like Miggy did with us, or even the Cervelli. And I'm sure we're gonna have more athletes coming up soon. Hannibal, for anyone watching, it's gonna be joining soon the podcast, and we're gonna do something really cool during the playoffs as well. And that's what but that's what everyone should be aiming for.
Yes, yes. And here on our channel here, I every week have Todd Hollinsworth, and we do our Hitting with Holly segment. And Danny, I don't know if you saw some of the things we just unveiled it the last couple of weeks, where I got some videos of some of these high school kids, and Holly's a real technician. He's can coach, and he probably should be a coach in the pro level as well
Yeah,
as a TV analyst. But he could really break down swings. He could break down pitching, at least from the hitter's perspective. So he's offering some really, really interesting, information, and that we're trying as we're evolving, because you have to evolve. I had an old
100%.
boss at MLB.com who told me this about 2005. He said, "Evolve or dissolve," and that kind of always resonated. That if you don't, you're gonna. So even though I may at times be, screaming at clouds, I'm still evolving. I'm still growing things.
But yeah,
I'm going to say
but
what I want to say, but I'm still evolving. Yeah.
absolutely. And sometimes it's okay to just go back to basics,
Yeah.
and kind of reset, and maybe not take a step back, but reset and reevaluate what you're doing, where you're standing at, because I think that's the only way to move forward when you kind of feel stuck. So it's okay to go back to basic and trust your instincts, but at the same time know how things are being done in these days, and let's just go forward with it.
That's real interesting that you say that, because I think when you think of media these days, just in the last 4 years since I retired in 2020, post COVID is really when things really
Oh
changed,
man,
because
yeah.
people were home during COVID. A lot of people became content providers, on YouTube. I don't know about you, but I've seen a lot of these reactor videos where you just get some people in their house, and they may be people in today reacting to the Beatles music, or so you find these generational differences, and it makes for some really interesting content. But it made everyone, that because we're all homebound, and then Zoom came around, so these type of podcasts that we could do where I'm at home and Danny's either at a studio or at home. He's doing that in Doral. I'm doing my thing in Broward, and we're able to talk and provide you this content today. But it kind of made everyone a potential content producer.
Yes.
So we're now. I hope that my edge is my and it is. That's the only reason why. It's my experience, my reputation, my name of being doing this for many years. But I'm noticing why I think I'm resonating a lot with the high school kids is it's not beneath me to be at high school games. It's not beneath me to talk to a parent of a
Hmm.
kid who probably is never going to make it to the big leagues, but may have a chance to go to college. And even if his high school journey ends playing high school baseball, even if it provides an academic scholarship somewhere, or that player or person, the young athlete, develop social skills, being in a team environment that prepared them for life. And point being, I think Danny is what makes ManOn2nd, what will make or break ManOn2nd is what we're, and the consumer wants something in return. Yes, I'm on your side. I'm looking, but if you can also provide me with more exposure that leads to something, now it enriches me, and these athletes see that certain athletes that I've promoted are getting respect and opportunity, and it's bringing more people to my site and me get my attention. Because me, if I see someone I like, I'll push them out there. Even if it's not
100%.
the name. That's why me. I don't pay a ton of attention to the top 100 list and stuff. Yeah,
I
you
know.
do. you
I
kind of
know.
know the top 10, but is number one really number one? Is number it's just a lot of
We
times it's fun seeing that, oh, this 80th guy is really better than the top five guy, and
we've se-
but you have to be open to
we've
that.
seen it so many times,
Yeah,
so many times, and you see, well, this year was Jackson Holiday number one over Jackson Chorio, for example, or over Jackson Merrill, and both Chorio and Merrill will be finalists for Rookie of the Year, probably
yeah.
in the National League. While Holiday has struggled a lot lately, but one thing, and this might or might not be controversial, COVID COVID year was interesting, was difficult, was tragic because we lost so many people due
Yeah.
to the virus, but at the same time, yes, it allowed more people to create content, and not because they create content, it means they actually cover baseball or a real media, and that was also the tricky part, because we saw some people allowed on Zooms that should have not had access to that or to a credential, but also at the same time, and I feel it, I felt it, right away after we were done with the all the measures, when with the pandemic or post pandemic, and it's that I think it seems like everyone now wants things to get done easily, and yes, you try to make it as easy as possible, but again, this is not an easy industry, and you have to work hard for everything, and you have to you have to get early to the ballpark, and sometimes leave 2 or 3 hours after the game is done, and you have to wait for a
Yeah.
player. Doesn't matter if it's 10, it's 5, 10, 15 to 20 minutes. I know you waited almost an hour for Giancarlo,
Yeah, on a
especially in
nightly
that
basis.
on a
Yeah.
nightly
Yeah.
basis. But stuff like that happens, and it is a grind, because it is a long season with with so many things going on. So I see that some people want it like this easily, and that's that's not the way it goes.
No, no, not at all. And that's the thing. And it's like once you the grind is why you do it, because it's rewarding and you're physically exhausted when the season ends and then you go to take off
And
and
mentally as well.
mentally and
Yeah.
physically exhausted because
You,
you're
you,
up real early to get on flights or you had a night game that went to extra innings, you had to turn around and be at a day game. And
and even emotionally, because we always say, oh, players spend more time with their teammates,
yeah,
than with their families. Sometimes writers do too.
yeah,
We see writers or staff or players more than we see our cousins or uncles and stuff like that. I mean, we spend more time with them, and sometimes, not if, for example, if I'm covering the World Series, I know that I'm gonna be out probably 8, 9 to 10 or 11 days, and those are 11 days away from my family. And
yeah.
during the regular season, you make those trips as well, and that's time away from people you care about. You miss birthdays, you miss weddings, you miss
Yeah.
so many things. We're not missing Noah Berger's wedding though, but but yeah, you
Well,
missed.
congratulations to Noah.
Congratulations to Noah. Yeah, I think the world's shocked of hearing those words.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, it's not easy, because you are physically, mentally, and emotionally exhausted after a game or after a season.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you the amount of, events I miss, family events, and so it was like, oh, you're the outcast kid because you know, you're missing someone's 50th birthday, and you're missing someone's anniversary or a high school graduation, and stuff that I'm the bad uncle all the time.
Yeah.
But that's fine. I mean, it's like
Last
I
year,
love them. They know I love them. They know I love them, and
la,
it's just what it is.
last
Yeah,
year, I remember my girlfriend's mom. I think should call it a mother-in-law. um, came from Venezuela to visit her. And the date she got here was the exact same day I was flying to Texas for the World Series.
Yep.
And the date of her return was the exact same day that I was supposed to come from the World Series, in case the World Series would have extended to 7 games.
Yeah.
Turn out it ended up in 5.
Yeah.
But when she told us, like, oh, I'm going from like the 24th or the 25th to I don't know, November 3rd, let's say. And I'm like, that is those are the exact same days I'm gonna be out. And she was like, oh yeah, you planned this to not see me those days, to not take care of Sarah and me. And I'm like, no, I swear I didn't talk to the commissioner to put those dates on more serious. But yeah, it happens. And luckily I was able to make it here earlier, so I could see her and spend time with them, like 2 or 3 days. But yeah, that's the way it goes, and that happens a lot.
No, no doubt. And it's like, but the thing is, you're young, and that's when you do it. You do it, you don't, and that's what puts you in a position where, when you get to my age, you're like, I don't want to completely not do anything because I still feel I have a voice, but I also am not going to work 90 hours a week like I did
Yeah.
for all those years, and miss all that time. And the beauty of this was I have spent a lot of time with my granddaughter and my daughter, a lot more time with them that I'm able to be part of, because my granddaughter's now in excuse me, high school. But there's a lot of
Wow.
her childhood is,
Lily's
I know,
already in high
for
school. Wow.
everyone. My granddaughter is 14 years old. She's a freshman in high school. She was
That's true.
born the day Giancarlo Stanton made his major league debut,
Yeah.
and I was in
June
Philadelphia that
10th.
day. Yeah,
Uh,
June 10th, 2010. And the funny thing is Stanton would always, we go, who you gotta, because I would always say, because somebody, like, he knew it was somebody's a big day for someone in my family. We always used to joke about that. And the reason why I wasn't there was my granddaughter was born a week early. And so
yeah.
when you're planning it out, I think the Marlins were going to go to, they were in New York on a Sunday. The
And they were
Twins
going
was in
to
Philly on a
Philly or something.
Monday,
Yeah.
and then they were going to Tampa. And
Yeah.
weirdly, back then, if I went to New York, I always went to New York and Philly because you could just take a train. It always made a lot of sense. But for whatever reason, they didn't want me to go to Philly. They wanted me to go to Tampa instead, which would have meant flying back, Sunday night or Monday, and then going up to Tampa like later in the week. And it was literally that Sunday, um, when the news broke that Stanton was going to get called up the next day in Philly. So changed plans, canceled Tampa, went to Philly instead. And the next thing I know, I'm there. Freddie Gonzalez is in and Stanton's there, and my wife calls me up, and I'm walking around in the dugout because everyone's in the clubhouse in Philly, and my wife's saying that my daughter is like minutes away from giving birth, and so I'm dealing with all this. I think I told Freddie Gonzalez first that I was a grandpa. It's like, imagine like you're sharing that with Freddie Gonzalez, who then managed the team. Um, but that's the world. And then Twitter was around, but I wasn't putting a lot of my private life there. I'm like now
Yeah.
where everything is out there on
Exactly.
Twitter, and it's but that was the grind. So you're dealing with, you see in your granddaughter 3 days old, basically, is when I first saw her.
Yeah.
So but that's, again, that's not about me. And I've never really made it about me. It's about, the coverage and the responsibility. And to this day, my daughter always kind of cracks up. She stands her favorite player, basically. And
Yeah.
she always has a connection with Stanton and knows it. And we'll joke that, yeah, you weren't here when I was born, you watching Stanton. It's like,
Yeah, but then you see, I mean, G winning the MVP in 2017. I mean, I'm
yeah.
pretty sure Caitlin was pretty happy about that. I don't know
Oh yeah, yeah.
if she remembers that happening, but still.
No, she'll
Uh,
remember. Well, there's that photo that I think it was Dennis Bancroft took it, of me on the field presenting the BBWA award to Stanton, like
Yeah.
the last home game or whatever. It was like a Sunday, and in 2017, and he hadn't won the league MVP, but he got the baseball writers press for
I
MVP.
have that photo, a photo of that on my phone.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, I should send it
And
to
so
you.
we that's blown up to a big kind of a big photo, and it's up on my wall downstairs. So it's kind of Stanton's MVP is definitely part of
You
our
know what? Now that you mentioned that, I always take a lot of pride during the award ceremonies these days, and I've been fortunate enough to been doing it since 2021, the year I joined the BBWAA, because I remember I didn't know that that happened. And I remember that last home game in 2017. That was my first year covering the team, and I remember watching you and Clark. I think it was probably Steve Wine
yeah
and then I think it was like a Japanese reporter, or no, maybe not Steve Wine, but maybe Jorge Ebro. Yeah, I think it was Ebro,
yeah from
and
El
then
yeah
and then
Illinois
a Japanese reporter that was covering Ichiro,
yeah
heading down to the ceremony. And I remember following you guys, and I didn't know what that was about, and I'm like, what's going on? Because I also remember players like giving out the jerseys to the fans because it was the last day,
yeah
and then I'm like, oh, there's an award ceremony, and it was you guys handing out the awards to Giancarlo. I think it was Miggy, Harlan, and I don't know, maybe JT or someone like that.
yeah.
And then I said, oh, one day I want to be doing this. So I always take a lot
Oh,
of
good.
pride because I remember watching you giving the awards to
No, I
to
appreciate
to
that.
Giancarlo, and I'm like, one day I wanna be doing this.
No, I appreciate that, and yes, it is a big deal. And um, you know, when it comes down to awards, I'm not voting on like the MVPs anymore. I'm still active member, but it's like, how much do you weigh? Like, did you ever vote this year?
I have a vote this year, yeah,
Yeah. What do you vote?
for manager of the year.
Manager year. What? Well, that's a little different. Let's say it was Rookie of the Year or
Yeah,
MVP or Cy Young. How much do you weigh the metrics to anecdotal to a little bit more insight? Because to me, it's almost like these awards, Fangraphs could just hand them out and just whoever says,
yeah.
and I really don't believe it should go that way.
Me neither. Me neither. Because if not, just take away the vote from us and do a formula and give it out that way. Um, I like the way it's done. For example, in Venezuela, that they give a ballot with every award to the writers down there and TV people and radio people as well, and you vote for your manager, your MVP, your pitcher of the year, the comeback player of the year, and the rookie of the year. But then you have an award to the producer of the year, who is very likely to be the MVP. But that's just a formula. And
Yeah,
the setup of the year, closer of the year, and another award. And it that's just gets done by a formula, and you end up having like 10 awards at the same time. I don't think that's a good part, but at least they balance it down there with metrics and with the writers' criteria. Here, I think many writers are just following what Fangraph says: top 10 F War or top 10 WRC plus, and that's just the way it goes. For me, I like to value no matter if it's for MVP, Cy Young, Rookie of the Year. I voted for those three before. The amount of playing time that the player got. Um,
yeah,
for me, it was a no-brainer. First year I voted, I think it was Cy Young. I voted Zach Wheeler over Corbin Burns, although Burns may have been more dominant than Wheeler. But Zach had 40 plus, almost 50 innings more than Corbin Burns
yeah,
that season, and he was still really good and really dominant. And
yeah,
for me, that was very valuable because we were coming off COVID year, and of course, everyone had a very weird season the year before, a very weird and limited off season with COVID still being a thing. and we didn't see many pitchers passing 200 innings or 190, 180,
Yeah.
and to have someone like Wheeler having those many quality innings on a daily basis for a Phillies team that was fighting for the playoffs, for me that was very valuable. Not saying that what Corbin Burns did wasn't valuable, but Wheeler was going longer in games, stayed healthy a little bit more,
Right.
because I think Burns had like um,
About 180, if I
yeah,
remember,
yeah, no,
something like that.
yeah, and he
Maybe
was,
even less.
yeah, it was way less, and it was, he was barely a qualified pitcher that year.
Yeah, which
Uh,
is 162 innings for a starter. Yeah, for a
exactly.
starter.
So
Yeah,
it
for a
was like
starter. To qualify
160.
for the
Yeah,
ERA title. Yeah,
exactly. So it was like 165, 167. I think he missed a couple games because of a blister or something like that. Anyway,
yeah,
for me, I value that a lot. How long you're able to stay on the field doing quality stuff. For me, that was the case with Wheeler. The next year, I think I voted MVP, and I voted Manny Machado over Goldschmidt and Arenado, because I looked in perspective what was Manny giving to the Padres,
yeah,
especially. We all knew Manny had an ankle sprain the entire second half, and he was able to put unreal numbers. And without Manny, they would have not made it that far, going to the NLCS. Obviously, we vote when the regular season ends, but still, Manny was for me the most valuable player in that year. And Fangraphs maybe said that Goldschmidt was a bit better offensively, that Arenado was a bit better defensively, and overall in WAR they were leading over Manny. But it was such a close race, and what I saw and what I was able to also talk with the players and coaches, gathering their opinion, led me to vote for Manny, because I think he was just the most valuable, hands down. And it's interesting because now we have the discussion with Rookie of the Year, and
yeah.
we haven't seen a season from a pitcher this dominant since Jose in 2013. But Skins hasn't pitched the whole year. He's not going to have as many innings as Jose did in
Yeah.
2013. Obviously, different circumstances. The Pirates basically had all their starters healthy from the beginning, while the Marlins lost three guys the last week of spring training. Oh, Jose, you're
Yeah,
going to a rotation, and he ended up pitching almost 180 innings. Um,
yeah.
but you have a guy like Jackson Merrill, who is having a great season, not as spectacular maybe as what Skeens is doing in
And he's
Pittsburgh.
not as popular name, but
He's not as
yeah,
popular name, but
yeah.
he's playing every single day, and he's
On a team
had
that's going to be the first wild card. Yeah, the
absolutely.
fourth
So
playoff game.
so
Yeah,
he's playing for a team in which he's had so many clutch moments.
yeah,
He's had, I think it's 6 home runs in the eighth or ninth inning to
yeah.
either
Something ridiculous
to either
at a very
tie
pivotal time. Yes,
to either tie the game or
win it.
move his team ahead, or to win the game. It's something crazy what Jackson Merrill is doing. Chodio has had a great year, but he had a bit of a slump, or a
Yeah,
very long slump the first couple of months, and he's had an unreal second half. But yeah, so it's a difficult conversation because uh, Skins has been so dominant, but Merrill has been so valuable all year long, and also knowing that he was a shortstop, and they moved into left field because of necessity in Pittsburgh, and then
yeah.
all of a sudden he ended up playing center field and being one of the best defensive outfielders out there without playing that position. So, um, whoever gets that vote, good luck with
It's
that,
going to be a
because
great race.
it's going to be a great race. And I have Manager of the Year, and it is
Yeah,
a
Danny, I got
difficult
to
one.
get you because we got to be off
Yeah.
by 1 hour.
All right,
So
that's true.
yeah, but I think we know who the MVP and the future of South Florida media is in baseball.
I
And
appreciate that, man.
this is going to be fascinating. I'll get you back on, and we'll kind of break down players a little bit and thoughts and such, and some of what you go into. But again, quickly, how do you find El Extrabase? Let me get it up there.
Extrabases.com, just as you see it, type there.
Yep.
and at El Extrabase on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, um, whatever it might be. It's like that, and that's the name of our YouTube channel as well. So you can find it, subscribe, like, and share it with your friends.
And likewise, everyone, because I gotta get out of here. The thing turns into a pumpkin at 1 hour. So please like and subscribe our channel. Thank you to Daniel Alvarez. He's the best. We'll have him back on. I hope everyone in the audience enjoyed this one, and we will catch